Good Friday morning. We've just about made it to the weekend. It is December 12th. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. I'm so glad that you found us here at the weather desk where we tackle today's top weather headlines. And once again, we have a jam-packed half hour coming up for you, all live weather coverage if you're watching us here on 13 News Now Plus, and we hope you are. You may be also watching us. We stream these on YouTube as well, so want to thank everybody that's found us on YouTube and continue to check us out. We do this each and every weekday at 9 o'clock Eastern. Let's talk about what we're covering today because there is a lot to get to, and it's been a big story this past week. Last 4 or 5 days, the Pacific Northwest has been seeing tremendous amounts of moisture just streaming, and think about like a fire hose just being turned on, massive amounts of water pushed in from the atmospheric river into the Pacific Northwest. And not only Washington State, you think about Oregon, Washington State, Idaho, Montana, even sometimes seeing some of that moisture streaming in, but farther north up into Vancouver, parts of the southwest portions of Canada also being impacted. We're going to take you up there and show you what's happening. This is a very sad story when you talk about storms having impacts on real world events. You know, Gaza has been war-torn, and there are relief efforts there trying to help people cope and survive. And the relief efforts in Gaza are being complicated significantly by some storminess there. We're going to take you there. And again, a very sad story with one family in particular. We will share that with you coming up. We are also going to take a look at the early season snow. You know, here in Hampton Roads, we've gotten some snow. We're going to compare that to some other areas that you typically associate with harsh winters. We've already had a run of it here in the mid-Atlantic up through D.C., Baltimore. We've seen the cold conditions, portions of the Northeast U.S. We'll show you how everything's kind of playing out so far. And then we need you to prep for dangerous cold. If you are watching from Southeast Virginia or Northeast North Carolina, we've got the coldest air so far this season set to move in as we go Sunday night and into Monday. An Arctic front comes through on Sunday, and that's going to bring in a big drop in temperatures. We're also going to talk about the reasons behind energy cost increases. Yesterday, we talked about natural gas prices going up. Well, today, it goes beyond that. We talk about electricity and some other things going on, why these energy costs continue to rise. Kind of an interesting story there. And then I mentioned how cold it's going to get Sunday night into our Monday, but there are indications that this cold pattern is about to shift, and we're actually going to be able to look forward to some warmer weather in parts of the country that have been so cold so far in December. So the pattern appears to be shifting. We'll time it out for you and talk a little bit longer range with you as well. So as you can see, there's a lot to go over. Again, we broadcast from Southeast Virginia, Northeast North Carolina, so we do focus a lot on that. But with the weather desk, we take you nationally, internationally, and we'll talk about something that's happening in space this weekend as well. A lot to break down. Let's go ahead and start off with a look at the atmospheric river. And for now, a little bit of relief for Oregon and Washington State. You still have the moisture streaming in. You see the winds here. And these aren't surface winds. What I've done here is I've plotted the winds up around 250 millibars. That's way, way up there, like around the jet stream. You can see, again, that wind pattern coming in off the Pacific, diving across the Northwest and kind of sweeping down into the Midwest. Here's Missouri. So this is the overall wind pattern way high in the atmosphere. Snow still flying across Montana, but we're going to focus a little bit more on this area. You see the snow and the unsettled weather, not only in parts of Montana, but extending up into Canada. And these areas here, again, Seattle, Portland, these areas that have been hit so hard with the historic flooding, at least getting a little bit of a break for now. I do want to start off, though, by looking at this atmospheric river and the historic flooding that it is bringing to the Pacific Northwest. You can check this out. The city of Sumas is seeing the worst of it. That's in Washington State, right on the border with Canada. So far, water levels there have hit a record 15 feet, and you see the expansive flooding right there. The U.S. Coast Guard even had to rescue several people by helicopter on Wednesday. This video shows them pulling 4 people from a flooded home after the rising waters forced them into their attic. Very scary there. But fortunately, no injuries have been reported. That is such great news. All right, the Washington National Guard is also helping with the storm response. Here you can see troops working to fill sandbags for residents. Amy Kiley has more on how emergency officials are responding.
The situation is potentially catastrophic.
Forecasters warn historic floods in Washington state could be deadly if people don't stick to evacuation orders. They say rivers have continued to rise, flooding homes and businesses. This rescue video is from the Snohomish River outside Seattle. The Skagit River is threatening populated areas farther north.
As long as we've been recording the river, it's never gone this high in those areas. So we're deeply concerned.
Officials say if levees fail, the property damage could be immense.
If the levees hold, which at this point in time, they're solid, not saturated, we'll be okay. If they let go, the losses can be in the hundreds of millions.
Meanwhile, south of Seattle,
it probably won't help much, but every little bit.
This man says he helped evacuate an RV park when the Cowlitz River rose.
There's no water, and the second trip he stepped into the water, and then I come down in there and we loaded him out and got him out of there.
In other places across the state,
it's a dangerous situation.
More communities are grappling with high water.
It's sad to see that people's homes are filled with water and potentially have to move out and start again.
Officials hope various flood control efforts keep up and keep people safe.
Folks are scared right now, and there's good reason to be scared because, these rivers, we do multiple swiftwater rescues a year that can be very dangerous.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
All right, and we mentioned north of Washington state up into Canada, they're dealing with this as well. Evacuations are underway in the southwest part of Canada, also experiencing these impacts from the atmospheric river. This is a look at conditions in southern British Columbia. Several rivers continue to rise after getting torrential rain for more than 24 hours. Hundreds of people have already left their homes, and the flooding is expected to peak later today. Now, you think about that again, they're starting to see some breaks more recently, but once that water falls into the river basin, sometimes it takes a little while, could be hours, in some cases days, for all of that to feed into the lower parts of the basins, and that's why that flooding is expected to peak later today. All right, we mentioned the storms here, but strong storms, they're also wreaking havoc in the Middle East, and we're going to focus on Palestine and Gaza here. Specifically, a strong storm is taking its toll, and we want to show you some drone video that shows flooding in Israel near the West Bank. You can see the high waters washed out busy roads, trapping more than a dozen drivers in their cars. That same system is also slamming Palestine, worsening the already dire humanitarian crisis there. This is a look at conditions in Gaza, where several shelters have been soaked through by rain. This is very sad news. A 7-month-old baby died of hypothermia after her family's tent flooded. The storm also caused several buildings, which had been previously damaged by bombs, to collapse. All right, we're going to turn our attention from the weather to earthquakes, because in Japan, and we're going to head all the way over, another large earthquake. A 6.9 magnitude earthquake shook the northeastern part of the country this morning. This earthquake comes just days after an even stronger 7.6 magnitude earthquake hit the same region on Monday, triggering a tsunami warning. That earthquake was captured on camera, shaking an office building. Take a listen. Wow, that shaking went on for almost a minute. Afterwards, several coastal cities reported seeing smaller tsunami waves up to 3 feet high. Japan also had to suspend high-speed rail service and close down some expressways. Now we're going to take you back to the United States and an update on a story that we brought you on the weather desk yesterday. Do you remember our story from Utah where a man was rescued after getting stuck in quicksand? That took place at Arches National Park. They're just off to the north of Moab, Utah. His story, the story of survival, he's sharing. Patrick Cornell has more on that, plus a look at another rescue on the other side of the world.
Check out the moment rescuers using a drone spotted a hiker stuck in quicksand struggling to get free. Austin Dirks says he was hiking a canyon in Arches National Park in Utah when he sank knee-deep into the murk.
Felt like I had stepped into concrete and then it hardened around my leg. I couldn't even move it a millimeter.
Dirks, an experienced hiker, using a GPS satellite messenger to alert rescuers to his location. Stuck for hours in freezing temperatures by the time a park ranger reached him, handing over a shovel to start digging, but it wasn't enough to free himself as water and sand kept filling the hole faster than he could shovel. A short time later, the cavalry arrived. From the air, you could see a full search and rescue team show up to start getting Dirks unstuck. Minutes later, the rescue starts to unfold. Crews expertly laid out a ladder and traction boards, giving the team the ability to pull Dirks out of the jam and get him to safety, stopping to snap this pic of the scene after finally being freed. Dirks is doing okay after that scary ordeal, but knows it was a narrow escape.
I realized that that's the closest I've ever come to dying. I literally owe my life to them.
On the other side of the world, a herd of goats stuck in a bad situation. The animals had been reported missing from a farm in northern Italy. Turns out they'd wandered way up a mountain. Hold on, let's take a pause and just check out that incredible view. Carrying on, rescuers from the country's fire service, I guess they do snow too, took a chopper up the mountain and found the herd at an altitude of 8,200 feet, and it seems they were happy to be found. In total, crews located 37 goats, all in good condition. The team rounded them all up and marched them about 6,000 feet down the mountain to the safety of their pasture. For Take a Look at This, I'm Patrick Cornell.
All right, Patrick, two interesting stories there. You know, we think about humans sometimes getting disoriented during snowstorms and kind of losing their way, but for goats, that's an unusual one, but I'm glad the goats are all good. All right, we're going to take another look at this Arctic cold front that comes through Sunday. We talked about it yesterday, but we have a weather impact alert. We're going to break down what the threats are to Hampton Roads, what we need to do to prepare for that. So after 2 minutes, we'll be back and talk about that weather impact alert, plus what you should do, again, to get your home ready. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. You're taking a look at the snow covering much of the northern U.S. this morning. These are the latest reports. A little bit more snow back out over western Virginia. You know, early this week we had that heavier snow over portions of our viewing area, and parts of Virginia got a bunch of snow as well. Now, so far this season, we've officially seen more snow than some bigger cities really well known for their harsh winters. Meteorologist Evan Stewart has a closer look at our early winter weather.
As winter gets underway, snow lovers across Virginia have had plenty to smile about recently. Early season snowfall totals across the Commonwealth are already outpacing some of the Northeast's largest cities. According to the latest National Weather Service data through December 9th, much of Virginia has recorded measurable snowfall. Blacksburg has seen 8 inches of snow, while Roanoke checks in at 6.5. Richmond has seen 6 inches, and Danville just over 2. And even here in Norfolk, we've seen an inch of snow, a rarity this early in the season. Of course, other areas of Hampton Roads have seen more, with 7 inches observed in spots on the peninsula and south side with our most recent snow. Now, these numbers tell a striking story when compared to the traditional winter heavyweights farther north. As a matter of fact, New York City's 3 major climate sites, Central Park, JFK, and LaGuardia, they've only reported a trace of snow so far, and the same thing for Philadelphia and Boston, sitting at a trace. So that means places like Lynchburg and Newport News have seen more snowfall than these other cities known for their nor'easters and deep winter cold. The reason behind our early edge? Just timely cold air and a series of very efficient systems that attract perfectly across the mid-Atlantic. Virginia found itself in the sweet spot. Of course, it's still early and winter is long, but for now, Virginia might need a new slogan. Virginia is for snow lovers.
All right, now just listening to Evan there, I was like, let me show you that track. You know, we've had a couple of clipper systems come through. We've had that snow track very favorable. And again, while this activity is very light, most of it not even making it down to the ground, you can see there are some light amounts of snow just out to the west over northern parts of North Carolina and southern Virginia. So maybe Virginia really is for snow lovers. I know they are loving it at the resorts out west and into West Virginia as well. So these ski resorts, they bring the natural stuff. Well, remember, we're not even halfway through December, which means we could see more snow. Let's take a look at this. We're going to talk about the departure from normal, and this is a model here that we have. I want to take this full, and I'm going to head back over to the big board and talk a little bit about this next Arctic outbreak here spilling across the north central U.S. today, down across portions of the Ohio River Valley, even parts of the Tennessee River Valley, seeing this very, very frigid air Saturday. Our Saturday is actually going to warm up a little bit. We're going to still stay below normal, but the really cold air for our area here in the mid-Atlantic doesn't arrive until Sunday and then into early Monday. So we do have this potential for very, very cold air. In fact, we're so certain it's going to happen, we've declared a weather impact alert for Monday morning. Wind chills are going to be down into the single digits Sunday night into early Monday, and it's going to be quite blustery as well. So that weather impact alert from midnight until 9 a.m. Monday, and I think single-digit wind chills for Sunday evening. It's going to get really cold behind an Arctic front that I'll time out for you coming up in just a little bit. Stay tuned for that. So we deal with the bitter wind chills, and then you've got the concerns for freezing pipes. Cold weather precautions need to be taken, and this weekend is a time to do it. With these dangerously cold conditions, Madison Schlegel spoke with a local home inspection company to find out what homeowners can do now to winterize their property.
Quality Home Inspections has been helping families for almost 25 years. And this house right behind us is ground zero for all of their training.
A lot of companies will nickel and dime you for services or what have you, and it's just not that way with us.
Lori Topping-Bailey is Chief Administration Officer for Quality Home Inspections. She tells us their company has a winter energy audit checklist, reminding homeowners to look at insulation in spots like attics and basements, to check the filter of your furnace, and to drip faucets near exterior windows.
This is the kitchen here at this window, so that would be effectively dripped. The hot water and the cold water dripped all night during the Arctic blast.
Bailey says with energy costs rising, family is at the forefront for their business. So much so that the owners of Quality Home Inspections, Sandra and Floyd Gibbs, invite trainees to their home to teach practical skills of home weatherization. Bailey took us around the home to show us how their crews train and what people can do ahead of what's about to be the coldest stretch of weather this year, starting with areas where water runs.
Like this spigot, typically we have this wrapped. Somebody can use old rags or they can use plastic if they want.
Bailey also warns about window insulation.
You're going to want to make sure all of the windows are caulked from the outside. You're going to want to make sure that they're also caulked from the inside. I know that Lowe's does sell kits. I think the Dollar Tree even had them.
Quality Home Inspections has also given us their checklist to weatherize your home. Their goal is to help you save money by being able to make those adjustments yourself. You can head to our website at 13newsnow.com for that checklist. In Suffolk, Madison Schlegel, 13 News Now.
All right, and again, heading into the late part of the weekend and early Monday, it is going to be very, very cold, not only here in the Mid-Atlantic, but up through the Northeast U.S., around the Great Lakes region. All of this, of course, putting greater demands on energy. And we've talked about this before. Energy costs are on the rise all across the country. A new report says Americans are paying about 13% more to heat their homes this year, which can amount to hundreds of dollars. So what's behind the increase? Well, the report says aging infrastructure and regulations are partially to blame. Another factor is artificial intelligence data centers, which can demand as much electricity as a small city. The end of tax credits for solar, wind, and other renewable energy sources are also playing a part. All right, so what can we expect heading into the weekend? Well, we're going to break all of that down for you. I was mentioning eventually we are going to see a nice break here from the cold weather. You look back at the month of December, and we have been cold here in Norfolk every single day with the exception of Tuesday, the 2nd of December. There, we were average. So other than hitting the average right on the money on the 2nd, every other day has been below average. Today, another cold day. Tomorrow, temperatures are going to be close to, we may get another gray day there with a high around 54 degrees. Maybe 55, we might get there, but still maybe a little bit on the cold side. Then very cold Sunday, very cold Monday, cold again Tuesday. After that, it starts to warm up. And these days, when we show this graphic later in the month, you're going to start seeing a number of red days because there are signs that the pattern is going to shift. Look at our 10-day temperature trend after this very cold Sunday into Monday. Keep in mind that high on 42, that's Sunday morning. Sunday afternoon and evening, we're going to drop down through the 20s, and it's going to be bitterly cold on Monday. Then we start to warm it up. By Thursday, we'll be above average, and we should stay close to or above average Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think those will be red days when all is said and done. What about beyond this? Is this just like a short blip where we go up a little bit and then get hit with another cold blast? Take a look at the 8 to 14-day outlook. This is through the 26th, so this is looking out 2 weeks. We are expecting above normal temperatures here in Hampton Roads, and for not only the Mid-Atlantic, but even up into the Northeast, we should get a bit of a warming trend, and temperatures certainly above average across parts of the south central U.S. So these areas that have been so cold now for quite a while, finally, the pattern appears to be shifting. And based on this outlook, and there could be little changes or maybe a blast of, a quick moving system or something. But looking out generally over the next couple of weeks, chances for a white Christmas around Hampton Roads seem pretty slim this year. This is a live look out at the ocean waters, and things have finally calmed down. Yesterday, we had small craft advisories up. Not today. Today, no warnings issued out there for the bay or the ocean. Air temperatures upper 30s to near 40. It's chilly. We've got the clouds for a while, but we'll see some clearing late. So we'll call it variably cloudy across the region, generally for the entirety of the day. On the bay, we're going to see the winds northwest, 5 to 10, gusting to 15. And those winds on the ocean, I just showed you the picture there from Virginia Beach with the Thompson Creek Window Company Skyview, 5 to 15 knots. The sea's only around 2 feet. Let's get into the radar and satellite images. And as we take a look, I can put the fronts on here and just talk talk to you about this. We've got a little boundary off to the southwest. High pressure trying to be in control. Couple of troughs on both sides. We are getting a little bit of snow aloft, but it's a very dry, low atmosphere, and this stuff just isn't really making it down to the ground. Still, I mentioned the slight chance for a few flurries, and we were getting some reports of snow a little farther to the southwest. Now, to what's coming up this Sunday, we really need to talk about this. Coldest air of the season, Sunday night into Monday. Again, some pipes may freeze. That's why we just heard from Madison Schlegel. As we talk about those cold conditions Sunday night, we're talking single-digit wind chills by 11 o'clock. Bitterly cold and cold into early Monday. Sunrise wind chills expected to be between 10 and maybe 14 degrees or so across the region. Really cold here for this part of the country. As we take a look at the future cast, again, a few flurries possible west and south. Generally, we should see some breaks in the clouds later this afternoon and into the evening. It is going to be a cold overnight, 20s and 30s again tomorrow morning. Very similar to what we've seen this morning, but we are going to see more sunshine. And with that high pressure overhead and then sliding eastward, eventually we're going to see the winds Saturday coming around to the southwest, and that's going to push our temperatures up lower to mid-50s. So finally, a day that feels really good. We just saw how cold it's been for the last week. We get a little bump in temperatures. We'll take it. But it doesn't last long because that next Arctic front is set to drop down through the region, bringing about a wind shift. Now, early in the morning, 7 a.m., low 40s across Hampton Roads. Some snow showers off to the north. Maybe some minor accumulations up around the northern neck, middle peninsula, parts of the eastern shore. Could get a coating of snow, maybe a heavy dusting or a half inch, something like that. Don't think we're going to see a lot sticking around here, but certainly turning cold and snow showers possible. So there could be some very minor accumulations, even a little farther south. We'll definitely want to stay tuned for updates to that. You'll notice how skies clear out and then it turns so much colder into early Monday. For today, again, a stray flurry or two out west, not out of the question, maybe down to the south, but there's really not much of a chance of anything significant. Temperatures, low 40s for highs today, upper 30s to low 40s. Off to the north, similar temperatures, low risk of a stray flurry, and down south, a little bit better chance for a few flurries or a stray snow shower. But again, everything pointing towards very, very light amounts if you see anything at all. We'll continue to watch it, and the temperatures are above freezing. It's cold, but it is above freezing out there in the ground. Again, not frozen solid for most locations, so that'll help. Overnight tonight, lows near 32, 20s inland, and then tomorrow back up to 54, mostly sunny, again warmer for a day because that Arctic front arrives Sunday, and then it's going to drop things. I have the telescope out pointed towards the heavens as a reminder. The Geminid meteor shower tomorrow night, the best viewing from midnight through about 3:30 or 4 a.m. As for Hampton Roads and most of the mid-Atlantic, skies are going to be mainly clear early Saturday evening. But as we go through the overnight, skies will become partly cloudy, and eventually you'll see some more clouds towards sunrise. So not a terrible night to try to catch maybe a few of those Geminids. Maybe you see a fireball or two shooting across the sky. That'd be pretty cool. But just know that there'll be more clouds as you get closer towards sunrise, and it is going to be pretty chilly again. All right, as we go through the day on Sunday, that 41, 42 degrees, whatever we hit there early in the morning, and then falling through the afternoon back into the 20s. Hanukkah begins Sunday night, and it's going to be a lot colder into early Monday. We do have that weather impact alert for the cold and windy conditions. Temperatures do warm up after that. And as I mentioned, Christmas less than 2 weeks away, so we got to get that shopping done, and it looks like we're going to have warmer weather as we get closer to Christmas to enjoy it. I want to thank you so much for spending time with us here on the Weather Desk. We'll see you next time. Have a great weekend.